I'm Ben Smith from the Goliath Foundation, and I'm so excited to be here with these amazing fathers who we're gonna have this great discussion about imparting some wisdom for the fathers of tomorrow. So today's fathers of today sharing experiences and wisdom to guide the fathers of tomorrow. That's kind of really what this discussion is about. So I was really happy to have a bit of a range of people, different levels of fatherhood. I think I'm the oldest one in this right now. Dean is supposed to show up, so he's older than I am. He's a good friend of mine, and he's got this range of he's got an adult son and he's got two young kids too. So he's kind of an interesting father in that term. But let's kind of go through a little quick introduction of everybody. So Tim, tell us about yourself and who you are
Uh,
as a father.
who I am as a father. Yeah, I'm I'm just trying to work on myself to be the best person that I can actually for my kids and the best role model that I can be for my kids. That's pretty much what I concentrate on daily for them and for myself. It's just it's a wicked world out there if you let it be. My upbringing was a little bit different than probably a lot of people, and so I've had my own struggles at even knowing what a good father was. So that's what I kind of work on these days to just to better myself so that my children have a good role model to look up to.
Nice. And Kevin, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're the owner of Contenders Boxing Studio, and you and I go way back.
Yeah,
Tell
we
us
go way
what.
back. Yeah. So I'm Kevin. I own a boxing gym. I have for 18 years now. And I got two little kids. I got a little boy, Ryder, who's 6, and I got a daughter, Indiana, who's 9.
Nice,
Yeah.
awesome. And David, you have two kids as well, so you're a teacher at the alternative school here on the coast. You and I have done quite a lot of work in the school over the years. So tell us about yourself as a father.
Yeah, so I have a 7-year-old going on 17 named Lucia. She's her name means beautiful light, and she's a huge blessing. And my little guy, Ellis, who's 3, almost 4, who was super sick this weekend. And I heard him articulate how he was doing for the first time when he turned to me deep in a fever and just said, "I'm not okay." And it was like such a huge moment to hear this little human being just be like, "Dad, I'm not all right." Kind of broke my heart. It's kind of beautiful though as well. And I
Kind of beautiful.
yeah, I'm a surrogate father to many. I run a skateboard school in the summer, and a lot of single moms bring their kids to me, looking for a mentor and a leader for their kids. And it's also very common for students in my school to call me dad by accident. Today, I get to take a group of 6 kids who are graduating this week for a celebration trip. We're going to see Jurassic World at Park
Nice.
Royal. Some of them have never been to the big city to see a movie. And 3 of the kids I've had as my student for 6 years. So
Nice.
I get to be a dad in a lot of different ways, and it's a real blessing.
Yeah, no, I was so glad you were going to be here, and again, I know that you can't be here that long, so we'll get into the
Because I'm doing
discussion.
it. Because I'm here doing it.
Yervik, so I again, I was calling you Joviv. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Javica Djordjevic. I am a podcast host, a business owner, dad as of 4 months ago. So I'm 32 and got my first kid, and it's been a beautiful, interesting, fascinating journey in a lot of different ways. So navigating the waters of what it feels like to have a human that's completely dependent on me for her existence. So that's been an interesting journey.
Yeah, that's so cool. So you and I kind of met through just the podcasting through Willow. So you interviewed me for your podcast, Millennial Man, right? And
Millennial Manhood, yeah.
yeah, millennial manhood, and you were just kind of in the process of going through that, the birth of your child. So it's been quite interesting just to kind of chat back and forth with you a little bit about that. But so very, very interesting. So the last couple of years have shown us anything. It's like, God, we need to kind of change the the paradigm, right? As far as what fatherhood is and how we're guiding our kids. I mean, I think we can all agree that we need to be a little bit more flexible. We have to teach our kids more to be, or give them the skills to be more flexible and fluid and adaptable, because the world is going crazy right now. So what would you say is the keys for kind of moving kids forward in the most positive manner in this culture today?
I think, I mean, I thought about this. I knew I'd have a very little amount of time. I've been doing men's work for most of my adult life. And one of my favorite conversations is the question, what's the advice that your father shared with you that you would share with others? And I always come back to the same thing that has so many ramifications is my father taught me, if you don't ask, you don't get, but always ask humbly, accepting no as an answer. And these days, the conversation that has extrapolated from that is about consent, is about advocacy, about even entrepreneurship. I'm living in a world where I teach career life education and teaching kids about the job market right now and about the shifts and the changes. It's all about helping them understand that they're not going to have one career, they're going to have many careers. And to get what they want, they're going to have to find the self-confidence to go often to other men, to older men, to men that might intimidate them and ask for what they want, but to do it in a way that's not entitled. And I think we see so much, especially in the school system, the feedback you get from a lot of educators is kids are so entitled these days. And, I think that also comes out of fear. They don't know how to ask for things. And so they take, and then they ask for permission. For forgiveness afterwards, instead of asking for permission. And I'm also a trained sex educator, and I've done deep work into consent training and culture. And I love having that conversation, helping young men understand what it means to respectfully have conversations with their partners, with their employers, with their parents. Consent is across the board. It's not just a sexual conversation, is helping young men find the confidence, which so many of them don't have, to come into the fullness of who they are and not be afraid to ask for something. And even this morning, just before we got on, I got a call from a local business owner who lost 9 employees last week, all teenagers, and called me and said, I need bodies. We're going into our busiest season. I need hardworking, respectful young people who can do the job. And so literally before I stepped on, I walked out of my classroom. I looked at 2 kids who I've worked with for years. I said, you're starting a new job next week. And they kind of looked at me in a weird way. And I said, I know you can do this job, and I'm going to tell the boss that you can do it, and I'm going to coach you into how you can do it. And so my last thought before I need to go is fatherhood looks like so much these days. And I would encourage any men who may be listening to this who are dads themselves, if you're a good dad, find other young men and women in your community who you can be a father to. And if you're not a dad, but you want to be a father, you can definitely become one, because this world is full of kids who are looking for leadership and mentorship and fathers. I come from a religious background, and Jesus was put on the spot by the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the political people of his time. They're trying to trick him. And they said, how do you serve God? And he said, that's easy. You take care of the widows and the orphans. And in our culture, that's single moms, that's kids who don't have a leader in their home, who don't have a father figure in their home. You see that kid, and as a coach, a boxing coach, a mentor in any way, a boss in a business, you see a kid who needs some leadership, they're crying out for it. Just give it to them. Pull them aside and say, hey, kid, you need a little bit of guidance, and I'm going to be the one who gives it to you. And my experience is if you're respectful, they will always take your leadership. They will always take your guidance because they're desperate for it. And kids these days need boundaries. Like, oh my gosh, they have no idea where the line is. Social media is telling them how to get attention by being crazy and get attention by doing the wildest and craziest thing. And they're trying it and they're burning down their reputations. I did a mentorship walk last week with two 16-year-old boys who just got into some trouble doing some crazy things that they shouldn't have done. And they were just desperate for someone to tell them where the line was.
Mm.
So that's my rant. I came ready to give it. I
Oh,
just
dude.
think fatherhood looks like so many things these days, and there's so many good books about it out there, and good people like Ben and the other man here. I wish I could stay for this conversation. Please invite me back. I'd love to talk more with more of you, but I just say it's a pleasure being a father in my community to more kids than just my own, and it's so possible because mothers without fathers in their home and kids who have fathers in their home, they're desperate for it and they want it so bad. So just step up and do it.
Hey, before you leave, could I just ask you this one question, real succinct? So what, for these kids that are seeking this guidance and that line, what do you think is the biggest challenge for them as far as asking for that? Like,
No one's ever shown them how. So really, like, I think it is teaching them how to ask, and really, it's breaking down that entitlement and teaching them how to be a humble asker. And we can all feel it, especially women. When you ask for something and you're only going to accept yes as an answer, they know the difference. When you accept a no and you thank the no in consent education, you always thank the no. When you ask for something and someone says no, you say, hey, thanks so much for being honest with me. I appreciate that. And so it's actually modeling to them how to ask, accepting whatever the answer may be.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming. Even if it was short, you're awesome.
Thanks, Ben. I look forward to working with you again soon.
Kevin, let's talk to you. How do you have anything to add to what he was kind of talking about as far as, I mean, you got some experience as a fatherhood?
Yeah, I got some experience as a father. I got some experience as a mentor too. You know, I own a gym, and a lot of young men come into the gym too. So I've definitely walked down that path a few times, and I've struggled in the last couple of years with the pandemic and with owning a gym. It's been very hard for my family. So when you talk about what we can do as parents to help our kids, is the one thing I think the pandemic really taught me, or just reiterated to me, is that how important also making sure that you're doing something for yourself, and that your wife is doing something for herself to make you able to give that love and give that guidance. Because I know in the middle of the pandemic, myself and my wife a lot would try to do everything just for our kids, and ended up losing ourselves a lot, or not putting ourselves first, and not staying fit and healthy. So I think exercise is the number one thing you should do for mental health.
Yeah, for me, it's all about my well-being, right? If my well-being is good, then it mirrors out onto my children, out onto my community, and just out into this universe, really.
Well, just real quickly, how old is your oldest? Give the ages of your kids.
23, 22, and 18.
Okay.
Yeah, we're pretty much going to be empty nesters here, but that doesn't mean that, you know what I mean, fatherhood's over, right? Like, there's lots of things that I don't think I did right in the first place, so there's probably a lot of like things I'm gonna have to work on in the future here to just continue to be, that person that I want to be, and the person that I want to be that role model for my children. And that comes with being well myself.
Well, again, you and I have talked like so much about that building that stability within yourself and how important it is. So, I mean, and again, it's great to hear that from you as a father who's raised kids, and knowing that, I mean, it's great to have a great job and have all this money and everything, but you need to be the model of like happiness and joy and self-assurance and love for your kids to model, right?
Oh, most definitely. It's allowing them to be vulnerable and allowing them to be themselves and allowing them to have respect for themselves. And when they have that for themselves, they're going to have it for everybody and everything. You know, it's goes back to what David was saying. You know, it's just being a father to everyone, everything. You know what I mean? What is a good father, right?
I love that.
It takes love. It does. It takes love, and it takes caring, and it takes patience, and it takes, you know, just respect, you know, unity, right? Togetherness, communication. Like, these are the things that we need to have as good fathers. If we don't have those things, it's confusing life, right? It's like, what do I do? What do I say? No, you got this. You know what I mean? You say what you want to say. You know, you don't be afraid to be someone, be something. You know,
Nice.
it's you know, don't just keep your head in that phone, right? You know, there's a world out there, and
it's a big world. You
be
got
part of it.
absolutely. So you're I'm gonna keep screwing up your name.
I think you're trying to pronounce my last name when you're reading it. Yavitsa.
Yavitsa.
There you go. Yeah.
Yavitsa. Well, because in my head for so long it's been Jovica.
Yeah.
So it's gonna
Sorry,
be hard
man.
to switch that. But anyways, so tell us a little bit about your experience about fatherhood right now. Some of the challenges that are kind of rolling around in your head because you're such a new dad.
Well, I think one of the biggest things that has kind of solidified certain belief systems that I've had, especially around being grounded in reality. So, you know, you made a comment earlier about the crazy times we live in. And I would push back on that and say, these times aren't really that crazy.
I don't think
It's
so.
just, it's just that in the United States, Canada, and Western Europe, we've had an unreasonable amount of stability in our lives. I want you to think about this. A child born in Syria in March of 2011 has never known anything but a devastating civil war as part of their life.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
that is crazy.
That's crazy. Me paying $5 a gallon for gas sucks, but it ain't crazy.
Yeah, but you know, I just want to back up my statement. It's not so much that it's crazy. I don't think it's crazy either. But the energy of people is crazy.
Right. And I would argue that a lot of that energy is from the fact that we have got a completely unreasonable expectation of what stability is.
For sure.
Like, so to me, when I think about my daughter, and specifically as a father, it's like one of the big things that my wife and I want to do is we want to take our children traveling. Like, that's our big thing. You know, I grew up, I was born outside the States. I came to the States when I was 10. I come from out of a part of the world that's very unstable in a lot of different ways, especially at the time when I was born. And just showing our children, hey, different people live differently. They look differently. They think differently. They act differently. That doesn't make them bad. That makes them just different from how you approach the world, and helping them understand and reconcile those different approaches. So like, I always go back to the example of that mindset that people have, that fear mindset that is fueling all this discussion that social media isn't helping, that's creating all this unhealthy environment. I always go back to when I was a teenager and like the war on terror was happening. And in the United States, there was like this real big Islamophobia. Like, anybody, you know, Muslims were persecuted and people were very openly hating Muslims unless they had a friend named Muhammad. Right? All of a sudden, it wasn't just Muslims. It was, oh, that's my friend Muhammad. Well, he's not a bad guy.
Yeah.
So a lot of this fear and anxiety and anger and energy comes down to the fact that people live in their own bubbles, for better or for worse, and a lot of it is not their fault. But the way you burst that energy is by opening up your bubble to multiple different experiences. So helping my kid. So the big thing that I'm constantly thinking is like, how do I teach my kid not to be a jerk, essentially, is by exposing them to as many different things as possible to help them think rationally through every situation.
Nice.
So that's what I'm kind of just wrestling with every single day.
Nice. Do you feel like your wife and you are kind of at that nice grounded place for yourselves to be that model of what you're talking about?
In a lot of ways, yes. In a lot of ways, no. I mean, at the end of the day, we're both 32. Like, we can be the most mature 32-year-olds on earth. We're still only 32. You can't go to the grocery store and buy experience, so it's an ever evolving process of trying to challenge yourself, trying to grow, and you find yourself getting stuck in things. And it's like, can you identify where you're stuck? Can you put yourself in a situation where people are telling you you're stuck and you actually listen instead of double down and, be stubborn? And that's that balancing act, because at the end of the day, if I've learned one thing from being a dad these last 4 months, is that my parents were completely winging it, because I'm winging it. I have no idea.
So actually, let's kind of go talk about that for a second. So so many of us were winging it. I mean, I know you were winging it, Tim. I was definitely winging it. Willow, you know that when you watch this. But just for preparing yourself for not just your future, but for like fatherhood, but also just your place in whatever you're going to do for work or whatever. Just finding that place where you're kind of like grounded and feeling good, and where you could be that mentor. What do you think is required for that to happen? Like, let's just keep a discussion about this, because again, it's related to the fatherhood, but what do you think is required for that? I mean, you said exercise, Kevin. That's one of them.
I think
What else?
adaptability too. I think we really have this dream of getting to a place where you're set and everything is stable. But I think learning to be adaptable is very important, and teaching your kids to learn to be adaptable, and letting them see you struggle in changing, I think is helpful. I know this last couple of years, there's been a lot of changes in it, and that I've had to go through being a business owner through the pandemic. And it's really taught me to just try to not look too far ahead, and not strive to have everything set right now, but know that I have the skill set to adapt when times will come. Hopefully teach your kids the same thing, that you don't need to just have one set path, but you need to have a mentality that allows flexibility and allows you to adapt when you need to.
Yeah, nice. And actually, I just want to make a comment kind of question. So you work with a lot of like CEO, you work with a lot of corporate people, high-end corporate people, and did you know, so you obviously them pretty personally as fathers or whatever. Did you see them struggling a lot with the whole pandemic thing, even with all their money and this and
For
that?
sure. I work with a lot. I'm right downtown, so you work most of the geographic areas, people in business. So I've seen a lot of people struggle, but more importantly, I've also seen some people who really showed the way and how to lead forward. I have one good friend who just an amazing leader in the fact that he struggled through it all, being a CEO of a big company. And I think he's the fittest, happiest, healthiest I've ever seen him in his life. And I talked to him a lot about that. And really he took the challenge of the pandemic and turned it into a win for himself,
So
really
what was the
rose to
key?
the occasion.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, what was the key to his leadership that you thought was like, wow, what a great leader? What do you think is the key?
Good question. I don't know what the key to his leadership is, but I know that of the people I know that know him the most, the one comment that you hear the most is that when he's talking to you, he's 100% in. You know what I mean? Like when he's wherever he is, when he's with one situation, he's really present in that situation. You know what I mean? Yeah, he really has the ability to lock everything else out and be present to deal with whatever he has to deal with at that moment. Then
Nice.
turn it off later.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I think as leadership in leadership, I mean, being present is like huge, eh? So Tim, any other reflections on the difference? Let's just say the difference of fatherhood Well, I guess there's not that much. I mean, they're all pretty close, I guess. But what would you say was the difference between being in your opinion, being a father now as compared to, like, 20 years ago?
Well, I mean, confidence, right? It's how confident you can be as a parent, right? I love, like, there's so many things that stood out here for me. Being present, courage, flexibility, I think is huge. Not being, rigid, right? Because, they got to do their thing, man, these kids, right? Like, not our thing, right? They got to do their thing. So that's important. Uh, be just their health and their wellness, right? Their happiness, right? Their emotions, challenging themselves, right? Like, just to challenge themselves to be committed, like Kevin said, he was committed 100%, right? It's those are things, the fundamentals of getting forward, moving forward, taking that negative, whatever it is that comes in your path, and just turning it into the positive, right? Like, not staying there, right? And learning how to get out of it, right? Like constantly pushing, moving forward, but with class, and with finesse, and with love and compassion and patience, and those are the things that I I enjoy now. When I didn't have them before, it was a journey of getting them, right? And being willing and open. That's the big thing, open. The one thing that I've been concentrating mostly on now is actually learning from them, because I don't live in their age. I'll never live in their age. So maybe I can learn from them so I can better understand. And that's just one way that I'd like to say that I'd like to get on the same page as them.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter is actually, Kevin, you and I hung out a lot when Willow was just a baby, right?
I
Going to the
remember her,
beach and
yeah.
stuff like that. But now she's 30, and I would have to say, for myself, being a parent, being a young dad, I was 20 when she was born, but I was like so frantic or whatever. But over the years, I've kind of learned that, again, you got to kind of model for your kid. I mean, I think if I bring anything to the table as far as my experience as a father, it'll be this too shall pass. No matter what the stresses of it are, this too will pass. And your kids are definitely gonna remember your energy. They're gonna remember who you were in the situation. I remember so many things at 20, 21, 22, being a young man, like how am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to, like, oh, what am I going to do for a career? What am I going to do for this? I was all wrapped up in stress. And I think your kids kind of take that, right? Well, I know that your kids take that. And I kind of, as a parent, I had to learn how to ground myself into being stable. And I could see how it's affected my relationship with my daughter, because now we're like so close. She works with me, and it's been so important to be able to model that sense of calm self-assurance to her. But again, you kind of lose sight of that when you're in the mix of it, right? Especially when you're a new dad and you're worried about all these different things. But they're going to remember how you were. They're going to remember, and they're going to guide themselves based on your own confidence and your ability to navigate struggles and challenges, right? So I think that's super important for new fathers to really, really understand that, all the challenges, all the struggles, it's about you. It's about who are you being in it, right? Agree, everyone?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
My bandwidth is low. Hopefully, you can hear me. But I think you're totally right on that. Like, I think, it's really the end of the day. People don't remember the price or anything else of most items. They remember the experience. They remember how it made them feel. And it's true when you go to your favorite restaurant, or it's true how you talk to your kids, how you deal with your kids. So I think really remembering that there's a lot of pressures are put on us, but really the only thing that matters with our kids is how we interact with them, right? They don't really care if you're rich or poor, you know, and as long as you can supply the necessities of life. Most of us are lucky enough to be able to supply fairly readily. Once
Mhm.
you have those, everything else is just add-ons on top of it. So
Absolutely. But I think that I think, you know, it's so, I mean, because there is so much, like I say, you know, it's in many ways it's a great time, but it's also energetically a struggle for some people because they don't have no, they're not very balanced within their own energy. But I just think that is from my perspective, that's one of the keys to being a good father in these times, is like being calm, taking the information if you need to, or taking looking at the challenges that are going on in the world, and being that calm, steady state. You know what, it's going to be okay. You know, focus on solutions. How are you moving forward? How are you letting this opportunity or this challenge or this struggle elevate you to a higher place to be a better person? You know, how can you express compassion? I think these things are, I mean, as fathers, we need to model this and we need to teach this. Agreed?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
especially
green,
the being
the
calm
green,
part.
the green thumb of parenting. Right, like that's how I go about things nowadays, right? It's their water, right? It's what you're feeding them, you know, like what are you putting in their soil, right? You know, if those roots are important, right? You know,
Uh,
so we gotta, I love what we're doing today, right? Like this is just great.
Absolutely. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, just the being calm, being the oak tree, basically, of, you know, when everything is falling apart around you, like how can you remain calm and let that, because they're kids. I don't care how old they are, they're still kids. And I don't even really care if they're adults. Like one of the most powerful things my dad ever told me was after his mom died, because his dad died 11 years earlier, and he said, you know, for the first time in my life, I truly feel like I'm on my own. He was like, I got nobody behind me. Like I am the last one in line. You know what I mean? So I'm everybody's oak tree, for lack of a better term. But like he was like, even if you're 50 something and your parents are still alive, you still feel like they've got your back. But once they're gone, you know, it's on you. So being that consistent level of calmness, kind of like Tim said, that teaches them how to be
Mm-hmm.
that calmness, because one day you won't be there.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to be able to know how to handle it and teach it to the next generation.
Well, you always have seemed so calm to me. So what is it that gives you that calm, besides the model of your father? What is it that keeps you in that state all the time, or seemingly all the time?
No, I'm pretty calm most. Like you can ask my wife and my extended family. Like when I get riled up about something, like pissed off about something, they're like, "Ooh, like this must be this must be something traumatic." I get passionate about things, but very few things get me going on that front. A lot of it is with the model of my father. A lot of it is just, again, you know, a little bit about my background. Like we were war refugees when I was a kid. Like then we came to the States when I was 10. Like we lived in the ghetto of Memphis. Like my I don't know, I guess I had a lot of responsibility and a lot of freedom growing up, especially growing up as refugees in Germany. Like in Germany, you know, I would get home and mom would be like, hey, here's some money, go take your bike to the store, go buy me this, 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 and this, and then you can go to the playground, be back by 7. As like a 7-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I was in Serbia in 2017, and I'm in the middle of Belgrade, which is this massive city, in like the center of the city, and there's this kindergarten class going on a field trip walking through the city, like single file line. Why? And my now wife at the time, girlfriend, or I guess fiance at the time, she was a kindergarten teacher. And all those kindergarten teachers, like when I would talk to them about there's no way we could get these kids to do that. No, you could. They just don't have the expectation of needing to do that. So that's why they're not doing it.
Yeah.
Because when they don't have freedom, which is one of my big beefs with our educational system in the United States, when you don't have the freedom to explore and fail, you don't learn. I had a
Mhm.
lot of freedom. I had expectation and responsibility. Learning English the quickest out of my family, being the oldest. Like when cable went out, when I was 12 and the cable went out, my dad was not calling Comcast. I was calling Comcast and negotiating with them.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I succeeded, sometimes I failed, but it taught me nothing's the end of the world.
Mm. Yeah, it's funny because I did a podcast on our, the Love and Glass podcast. I did one with my sister, and we talked about that. I mean, we were basically left to our own from a young age, and wandering around the streets, and our, no parents really. Well, at least in my home, we lived in different homes, and talking about but we had that conversation about how kids like my generation, and my sister and I and my brother, we all had to basically fend for ourselves, but it gave us a kind of a resilience. And that's what I'm always trying to, because I work with so many kids in the community and doing one-on-ones and mentoring. And I'm always saying, let this struggle elevate you, like let it make you stronger, recognize the strength that it's giving you, and see the, just see how you're able to again be like you're talking about, be responsible, be able to put yourself in these situations where you can take care of yourself, where you're not relying on everybody, and let it make you stronger and stronger and stronger.
I do want to clarify something about my statement. I was not left to fend for myself. Like I was not running the streets. I was not. My parents are not perfect, but they did an exceptional job at this. They gave me responsibility with an extremely powerful support system in place. So like I'll give you a good example. I never drank in high school, ever. Not for a religious purpose, not because of fear, not because of whatever. But my dad was like, "You want to drink in front of me. Like if you get drunk, like call me. You won't get in trouble." Like it was very much so like a dude, be smart about this. But the way I looked at it was all these people trying to peer pressure me into drinking. The way I looked at it is like, hey, bro, I'm Milan's son. That's my dad's name. It's like, I'm gonna need you to explain to me who the hell you are, that I should even take you seriously right now.
That's
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He let me borrow his confidence.
Nice. But again, if we're in this conversation, he modeled it, right? So I mean,
Right.
for all of us, it's like, God, it's such a huge thing. It's such a huge thing to model to the community, but to our own kids, right?
Right.
So that's awesome. So Kevin, I could see you want to pipe in here.
Oh, I just wonder I have a good friend who is a Croatian who has the same approach to drinking, or his parents had the same approach, and I wonder what Yavit says his approach will be with his daughter. Will you be as lax with her and hope she makes the right choices?
Well, yeah, the Yugoslavian worldview is pretty consensus on that board. Yeah, I think so. And a lot, because here's the reality of it. The way I look at it is this: it's not like I have a choice anyway. What am I going to like watch her 24/7? Like, if I'm a hard ass about it, she's going to do it anyway, and any subsequent kids we may have. So it's about, what was powerful to me was just the fact that my parents took away all the rebelliousness out of it.
Nice. I like that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it stopped being cool. It just started being stupid.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing for me to rebel against. Like I would look at these kids, my friends at 17, drunk as a skunk, doing stupid crap, and I'm like, that is really dumb.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like I'm anti-alcohol. Like I've got a whole like shelf full of booze right here.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Nice.
it was just it just is.
Well, how does that resonate with you guys? Because again, Tim, you got kids that kind of more or less have gone through that whole process. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, my kids. Well, I mean, I didn't have a good upbringing, right? I had a totally different upbringing. My father ruled me with an iron fist, sort of, kind of abusively. So, I started running away when I was 13 and never went back. So I was pretty much my oak tree the minute I walked out the door, right? I found alcohol is fun. That's what my parents made it look like. It was the weekends, it was Christmas, it was in every, so if I felt bad, I turned towards alcohol, and I probably did a lot of those stupid things you saw your friends do.
What about passing on for your kids, like as far as the guidance for your kids and what you would do differently if you knowing what you know now, as far as like that kind of stuff?
I live a sobriety. I live without drugs and alcohol now. I do that for to be the role model that I want to be for them. You know, our two sons, they lived with the alcohol. Our daughter, not so much. Who's the most responsible out of them all? Our daughter. She could have a 6-pack, and a week later, there's 5 of them still there. You know, so
Right.
It's the role model, like I said,
Yeah.
right? It's the mirror out there. I like what you said earlier about taking the rebellious taking the rebellious out of it, right? Well, I like that.
That seems like a huge thing, but again, the responsibility. So Kevin, what are your thoughts on that? Because your kids are going to be, you know, not that long, they're going to be dealing with some of these issues, right?
Yeah, no, I struggle with that one because I think in theory, I do agree with you know, letting them have it, letting them try it. But then I also think maybe they see it too much, you know, like maybe seeing it makes it more acceptable that they'll do it more. So I don't want them to have to turn to drugs and alcohol to make them happy. So it's something I debate back and forth with myself as to what I'm going to do when that situation arises.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the scary part to me, though. I look at it, you know, now 32, we've gone through an entire cycle basically of like from teenage to like, there's no debating it. I'm an adult in every category. You know what I mean? And so are my peers. Nobody's looking at a 32-year-old being like, that's just a kid. He's figuring it out.
Well, I am, but okay.
So if you ain't adulting by 32, like, oh, people are like, okay, bro, get it together. But the scary part is like that rebellion stuff. The folks who were going so hard and as teenagers and then throughout college, they're still going hard. And in college, you kind of get that pass of like, oh, they're still in college, like that they're just having fun. Like if you're binge drinking at 32, you're an alcoholic. You're not having fun. You're an alcoholic. So again, it's about that role model because, like, for example, in my house, we always had alcohol. I've never once seen my dad drunk in my entire life. You know what I mean? Like it was always there, but it was just like a casual thing. So again, I don't know. It's, and I want to make this clear again, my parents aren't perfect. They did a lot of things. They could have done a lot of things better, but I feel like in that specific category, they just like freaking nailed it.
Nice. Well, I think that, I mean, we're talking to parents or fathers that are from all kinds of good backgrounds, bad backgrounds, alcoholics, non-alcoholics, struggling, poor, rich, all kinds of fathers. But I think the one thing that every father can do, again, is no matter where you are, you can be a model of strength and confidence and show that, you know, like even if you've struggled with alcohol and drugs or violence or whatever it is, it doesn't mean it has to continue. You can always reinvent yourself. And I'm all, you know, I mean, I've had a lot of struggles with different things, and that's kind of the thing again, is like, as a father, you can always, it doesn't have to be the way it is, right? You can always step up to plate and be that guy who all of a sudden is like an inspiration. And that's what we're trying to kind of get everybody to kind of realize. It doesn't matter where you are, what the background was, what your parents were, who are you going to be? Who are you going to be to yourself, to your wife, to your kids, and to your community, right? It's always up to you, and you can always change. Agreed?
Yeah, for sure.
I agree. And there's something that stood out for me is it's responsibility, you know, it's the responsibility that you take, right? It's, I'm telling you, Kevin, you're on the right track. You know what I mean? Like that is taking responsibility, you know, it can be fun, but it's not fun. You know, it's not the fun. There's lots more going around than just, you know, having the drink, right? And it's
What
beautiful.
I've got a question for you guys, because this is just my curiosity. What do you think about, because obviously, like, on the alcoholism, there's also like the disease of alcoholism that can be genetic, that can be, you know, people can be predisposed to it. So there's obviously that aspect. So I don't want to dismiss that aspect, because that's very, very real. But then also, what do y'all think about, you know, it almost seems like to me, looking back, a lot of the folks who really dove into alcohol, um, and kept going, kind of had nothing else going for them.
Yeah.
Like, they had no other interests. They had nothing that was nurtured to make them better. Like, they weren't, you know, they weren't a great athlete, or they weren't, you know, great at theater or great at history or whatever. Like, in a lot of ways, it seems like, you know, making sure your kids have their talents nurtured, whatever those talents may be, to where they're not being fulfilled by that part.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And again, I mean, that's one of the things that got me into boxing and bodybuilding and all this stuff, was to nurturing kind of my interests and my talents. But I think that, you know, across the board, though, I would agree with that 100%. And I know, Kevin, you got something to say about this too, but I would say, again, I'm going to keep reiterating this over and over and over again, is yes, nurture talent. Yes, nurture sports and interest, but also nurture those things within your own heart, those things that give you that sense of like, even if I have no talent, even if I have no legs, even if I have nothing else, even if everything falls apart around me, I've still got this sense of like, I know who I am, I like who I am, and try to keep encouraging that, nurturing that outside of any other sports or whatever. You know, it's I think we just need to continually nurture that within our kids. But Kevin, I didn't want to interrupt you at all.
No, I mean, I think yeah, it's a very good point there. I think you're right. I think alcoholism has many facets, not just people with talent who don't have passion fall into it. I guess my talk about alcohol was more just how do you not let them, how do you tell them not to do something and then do it yourself? You know what I mean? Like, how do you tell them not to drink and then drink yourself? Or you know, it's a question that I have with my kids, and I want to make sure that they don't fall down that path, you know, because it's a dangerous path.
But I would say it's kind of the same thing as anything. I mean, it's like we shouldn't be telling our kids not to drink so much as telling them like, listen, do it for the right reasons. Do it because you want to have a drink, because you like, you know, you like to have a drink once in a while, or like anything in life, you know, do things because you want to. You know, it's great to eat healthy, but if you want to have a piece of pizza, have a piece of pizza, but don't be addicted to it. Don't, you know what I mean? Don't go overboard. Everything in balance.
Ooh, the everything in balance part.
Well, I mean, let's face it. I mean,
I can, Kevin, answer your question again for some good old fashioned Slavic parenting. You know, I mean, on the alcohol front, even from an early age, growing up in Germany, my dad would show me him drinking a beer, and then he'd show the drunk down the road. He would point it out to me, and then he'd have a discussion with me about it.
nice.
What's wrong? And he'd ask me, like, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with this? You, 9 years old, explain to me. What's wrong with this guy throwing up on the side of the street at 3:00 on a Saturday?
Wow. Yeah, that's good balance.
Well, and that was his entire mantra, my entire life, or is, he's still alive. Everything in moderation, everything in life in moderation. Why shouldn't you drink right now? Because your prefrontal cortex isn't developed. That's why, like, let me help you understand that.
But that's the big answer right there. It's development. It
Right.
comes from the development, right? Like, being a good parent, it starts right at the beginning. Mom, child, father, child, that interaction, that connectedness, that, you know, everything that child needs to develop, right? You know, there's so many things like that I guess we're not going to be getting into here because it's, you know, off topic, but yeah, the development of your children, man, it's important. And I mean, you have to trust that if you're doing the right thing for them, they'll do the right thing later on in life, right? Like,
Absolutely.
It's the time that your father put in you. It's those questions that he asked you. He was there with you. You know, he gave you that gift.
I guess the one thing I'll shut up after that, but the one thing that I think ties this all into a bow, I've talked to my sister about this. What did we fear more than anything growing up? It was the loss of our parents' trust. That was the most terrifying thing on God's green earth.
Nice.
Because they trusted us so much to make the right decision, because they invested so much time and energy into helping us think critically. And so we had a lot of freedom to do things. Neither one of us ever got arrested. But again, the thought of being like mom and dad telling us like, you've lost our trust, was way worse than any peer pressure, any stupid decision, anything ever. To this day, like I think about it, I'm like, man, that would suck so much.
But I mean, that must come down to, again, that whole thing of just being a strong person that your kids can respect, right? You know, I mean, you're not
right,
gonna.
They put a lot of time into us.
Yeah. So for all the fathers listen to this, I mean, again, nurture that sense of where your kids are going to respect you as a responsible person, a person who does the right thing, who understands balance, who understands, I mean, God, I mean, you're not going to get that. You're not going to worry about your parents losing respect for you if they don't, or your kids lose, or you're not your kids aren't going to care if they don't respect you, if they don't see you modeling what they want to be, right?
I think too, providing that space for them to fail, like you said earlier, you know what I mean? That's actually, I think, a better place, because then you don't have to worry about, ruining your trust for your parents, right? That doesn't have to be a pressure on children, right? Should be okay for them to fall. You need to be there to throw that rope down, or shoulder them up and be like, all right, well, what did you learn? Just like that question, your father asked you about the guy barfing on the sidewalk, right? Like, it's the time we put in with our kids, the patience that we have to answer those questions, or sit there while they take the time to answer them for themselves.
Well, that's awesome, and I thought that was a great way to wrap this up. I know, Kevin, you got to get going pretty quick here, so I didn't want you to feel like, oh, I got to get out of here. So I got it. So before you leave, though, because I know you're the first one that's probably going to get out of here, is there anything, Kevin, that you would like to kind of impart in leaving?
I mean, in terms about what I think is important for being a good parent and being a good father is, I'll go back to what I said at the beginning, is I think you got to make sure that you keep yourself in a good mental state. And I think for me and the people around me, I think exercise is the number one thing you can. And I don't mean exercise in the fact that you want to have a 6-pack abs and you want to look like you do.
He always bugs me about my
pie
abs.
a day and still have a 6-pack. But I mean, exercise in the fact that we got to do it for mental health, and that's the biggest thing. I try to tell my wife all the time: you gotta run, you gotta bike, you gotta do something every day to make yourself happy, so that you can make your children happy. Because if you let that fester, if that feeling of not feeling like you've completed something, it can really bring a downhill spiral the rest of your relationships.
Yeah, echoing that. I mean, I always I tell everybody this all the time, and this is my thing. I spend the first part of every day. I usually get up somewhere in the summer. I get up between 3 and 4 usually, but probably it's not until 9 o'clock or so that I'm ready to kind of focus on anything other than myself. Up until that point, it's chilling out. It's looking at I live on the water, so looking out at the ocean, going for a nice walk, getting some fresh air, fly fishing, meditating, doing my stretching. So I do healthy stuff. I get some fresh air. It's all about like putting myself in that state. And again, the exercise, like this morning, I did a stretching. I had a good walk and workout. I mean, you have to take care of yourself, just like you talk about, Kevin, and that exercise and that found it, that the bricks of health with good eating, all that stuff, it all adds up, right, to making you feel I'm doing good. Yeah. So
I to just go off what Kevin was saying, you know, like some sort of release, right? Release of energy is something I'm actually gonna start to move into
nice.
with my health and wellness is, yeah, finding positive ways to release bent up energy, I guess.
Yeah, nice. I think it's so important. And
Yeah, it's I agree on the working out part. I'm like, I'm gonna go work out after this, go pick up heavy stuff and put it back down.
nice.
But yeah, I think that's crucial. I've actually worked out every single day, every single week since my daughter was born. I literally picked her up in the hospital, looked at her, and said, "Shit, I can't die."
Oh,
That was
wow.
literally my
That was awesome.
yeah, one of my first thoughts was like, I cannot die. She needs me,
Wow.
so
What
I
a,
got to take care of myself.
what a great message to model to your kid though, like of health and commitment and what's important, which is her.
Right. I mean, I've gotten it's it's funny. I've gotten strong as an ox just lifting since she's come around, and I'm probably stronger now than I was at 18 off of just like being extremely consistent and persistent
Wow.
in 18 weeks. So it's not
That's
even it's not even rocket science.
that's awesome.
That and just just being grounded and having a way, like you said, having an outlet for your own thoughts and feelings and emotions, etc.
I didn't want to keep you guys too long. We said this would be an hour, so I think we're going to wrap this up. But I really appreciate you guys' input and this conversation that we had. And for anybody listening to this, we would love to stay in contact with you. So again, if you go to the GoliathFoundation.com, you can scroll down and leave your email address, your contact information. We can keep you up to date on things that are going on. And please check out the podcast. So any closing thoughts before I sign us out here?
It was an honor, gentlemen. Thanks for having me today.
Likewise.
It was an honor. Thank you, guys.